Good afternoon, everybody. My name is b.c.begley, and this is the news with BC. I am your host. It's Thursday, October the 3rd, 2025. Nice to see everybody in the chat room this morning. And now here are your top news stories for today. A 35-year-old British citizen of Syrian descent, Jihad al-Shami, was identified as the attacker who killed 2 people and injured 4 others in a car and knife assault outside of Heaton Park Hebrew Congregation Synagogue in Manchester on Yom Kippur. Al-Shami drove into worshippers with a black Kia before stabbing a security guard and then was shot dead by police within minutes. 3 others have been arrested in connection with the attack, the Telegraph has reported. The Prime Minister has increased security at synagogues nationwide, while Israeli officials condemned rising anti-Semitism in Britain. President Donald Trump has declared U.S. drug cartels to be unlawful combatants, asserting that the United States is in an armed conflict with them, this according to an administration memo that was obtained by the AP. The memo, tied to recent U.S. strikes on drug boats in the Caribbean, marks a sweeping use of presidential war powers by framing drug trafficking as armed conflict under the law of war. The declaration allows the U.S. military to use lethal force and detain cartel members without trial, raising major legal and constitutional questions about congressional oversight. The Pentagon confirmed multiple strikes in September, including one that destroyed a vessel and killed 3 alleged cartel members. Critics warn the move stretches international law, while the White House says it fulfills President Trump's pledge to treat cartels as national security threats, the Associated Press has reported. Congress was briefed in recent weeks, with lawmakers voicing concern about new legal framework and its implications for future military action. President Donald Trump said on Thursday that he is working with Budget Director Russell Vought to identify, quote, Democrat agencies for potential cuts after Congress failed to pass a funding bill, triggering a partial government shutdown. Trump framed the standoff as an opportunity to target what he called, quote, political scams, hinting at possible layoffs and permanent reductions, Fox News has reported. He argued Democrats forced the shutdown to protect progressive priorities, while Vice President J.D. Vance and White House officials accused Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer of caving to pressure from the party's left and prioritizing health care for undocumented immigrants over avoiding a shutdown. California Governor Gavin Newsom warned that he would strip billions in state funding from any California university that signs on to President Trump's new, quote, Compact for Academic Excellence in Higher Education, which ties federal dollars to compliance with administration rules on admissions, hiring, free speech, teaching, and use of endowments. Newsom vowed to cut off Cal grants and other aid if schools, quote, surrender academic freedom. The compact was sent to 9 universities, including the University of Southern California, which received $28.4 million in Cal grant funds last year, KCRA3 has reported. White House officials criticized Newsom, saying he is opposing reforms meant to curb tuition hikes and protect free speech. Gateway Church founder Robert Preston Morris, who is 64 years old, was sentenced on Thursday after pleading guilty to 5 counts of child sexual abuse in the state of Oklahoma. He received a 10-year suspended sentence, including 6 months in jail, for abusing a 12-year-old girl in 1982 while working as a traveling evangelist. The victim, Cindy Clemshire, said justice had, quote, finally been served and urged other survivors to speak out. Oklahoma's Attorney General condemned Morris for exploiting his role as a pastor, Axios has reported. Morris, who founded Gateway Church in 2000 and once served on Donald Trump's Evangelical Advisory Board, must register as a sex offender, serve supervised probation in Texas, and pay restitution and incarceration costs. The Tennessee Supreme Court has scheduled execution dates for 4 inmates, including Krista Pike, the only woman on the state's death row. Pike, sentenced at 18 for the 1995 torture murder of Colleen Slimmer, has sought clemency, citing her youth and severe mental illness. Her lawyers say she has shown remorse and growth while incarcerated. The other scheduled executions include Tony Carruthers, convicted of a 1994 triple murder in Memphis; Gary Sutton, sentenced for the 1992 killing of Tommy Griffith, though his attorneys argue evidence against him was flawed; and Anthony Hines, convicted in the 1985 stabbing of a motel maid. The new execution dates come as Tennessee resumes capital punishment after a pause triggered by failures to properly test lethal injection drugs, raising concerns about botched executions, NBC News has reported. Attorneys for the inmates argue the state still has not addressed transparency or safety issues, and other inmates, including Harold Nichols and Donald Middlebrooks, also face pending or stayed executions. Unions in France are urging Prime Minister Sébastien Lecornu to scrap draft budget measures from his predecessor, which include welfare freezes and austerity policies that could hurt low and middle-income workers, while calling for higher taxes on the wealthy. Lecornu, appointed last month, has yet to announce his budget plans or ministers. Nearly 600,000 people participated in nationwide strikes and protests, including teachers, healthcare workers, and SNCF staff, affecting some regional trains and prompting the Eiffel Tower's closure. Demonstrations took place in over 200 towns and cities, with thousands marching in Paris to protest spending cuts and demand higher taxes on the rich, CBS News has reported. The unrest reflects ongoing social anger amid political uncertainty and heated budget debates. Senators from both parties pressed the Pentagon's top lawyer, Earl Matthews, in a classified briefing to better explain the legal basis for U.S. military strikes on alleged Latin American drug boats. Matthews cited President Donald Trump's designation of some cartels as foreign terrorist organizations to justify unilateral action, but declined to provide a written rationale. Lawmakers, including Senators Tim Kaine and Senator Jack Reed, expressed concern about the lack of evidence and the legal justification, while some Republicans, like Senator Tom Cotton and Senator Joni Ernst, defended the strikes. The administration later declared a, quote, non-international armed conflict with the cartels and claimed the actions were lawful under U.S. and international law, the Wall Street Journal has reported. Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro has threatened a state of emergency in response. Alaskan climber Ballin Miller, 23, died in a climbing accident at Yosemite's El Capitan, marking the third death in the park this summer. Miller, an accomplished alpinist known for solo climbs in Alaska and the Canadian Rockies, was reportedly lead rope soloing the 2,400-foot Sea of Dreams route when he fell. He had gained recognition for completing Mount McKinley's Slovak Direct Solo and shared his passion for climbing on social media, the Associated Press has reported. Family and fellow climbers remembered him as fearless, dedicated, and inspiring, with a deep love for the sport and life. The National Park Service is investigating the incident. Texas Sheriff Adam King, arrested in August on sexual harassment and retaliation charges, now faces a third count of aggravated perjury for allegedly lying to a grand jury. King pleaded not guilty and is allowed to return to work under strict conditions, including limited office hours, no contact with 7 witnesses, and use of a private entrance. Investigations revealed he harassed female employees over 18 months with inappropriate remarks and offers, and allegedly retaliated against whistleblowers, Fox News has reported. His trial is set for August 3rd of 2026, with Captain Ben Areola serving as acting sheriff during his absence. Okay, here's a look at the live weather radar from the National Weather Service, and now here is the National Weather Forecast for today. We have some record high temperatures likely across the northern plains, the upper Mississippi Valley, and the Great Lakes region. Also, heavy rains and flooding possible along much of the east coast of Florida. Russian President Vladimir Putin warned that supplying long-range missiles, such as U.S. Tomahawks, to Ukraine would seriously harm Moscow-Washington relations, but would not alter the battlefield, where he claims Russian forces are steadily advancing. Speaking at a forum in Sochi, Putin said Russian air defenses would quickly adapt, and dismissed criticism of Russia's military, arguing it is facing all of NATO backing Ukraine. He also praised President Donald Trump's efforts to negotiate peace and described their Alaska summit as productive, while a White House official noted Russia's economy and reputation have suffered from the war, the Associated Press has reported. Prince William told actor Eugene Levy in an Apple TV Plus interview that he plans to bring measured change to the monarchy when he becomes king, balancing tradition with relevance. Speaking candidly at Windsor Castle, he discussed family pressures, media scrutiny, and raising his children with openness, emphasizing support and resilience. William reflected on his upbringing, the importance of questioning outdated practices, and his desire to create a legacy that his son would be proud of, while maintaining a relatable and informal tone throughout the conversation, the BBC has reported. Italian art police raided a Salvador Dali exhibition in Parma, seizing 21 works, including tapestries, drawings, and engravings, all suspected of being forgeries. The exhibition, titled Salvador Dali Between Art and Myth, features around 80 pieces and had previously been displayed in Rome earlier this year. Authorities acted after the Gala Salvador Dali Foundation raised concerns and identified anomalies in the artworks. The police stressed that the works are only presumed fake at this stage, and the presumption of innocence applies until a final verdict is reached, NBC News has reported. Italy's specialized art crime unit has previously uncovered large-scale forgery networks, including major modern and contemporary artists, including Dali, Picasso, and Banksy, and Warhol. At least 30 people were killed and more than 200 injured after scaffolding collapsed at a church in Ethiopia during an annual St. Mary celebration. Thousands of worshippers had gathered at the church when the wooden structure gave way, with many still trapped under the rubble. Eyewitnesses said people had climbed the scaffolding to view the ceiling before it collapsed, causing panic and chaos. Victims ranged in age from 25 to 80, and some of the injured are children, People magazine has reported. The Ethiopian government expressed condolences and emphasized that safety must be prioritized during construction projects. Kenyan police have offered a 1 million shilling, which is a $7,700 reward, for information leading to the arrest of suspected serial killer Collins Kalusha, more than a year after he had escaped from custody. Kalusha is accused of murdering over 40 women, whose mutilated bodies were found in a disused quarry in Nairobi. He escaped in August of 2024 by cutting through a roof and scaling a perimeter wall, sparking public outrage over police failures. Activists have criticized the authorities for inaction, noting some bodies reportedly remain in the quarry, and questioned how the killings went undetected so close to a police station, the BBC has reported. Several officers were previously arrested for allegedly aiding his escape, and Kalusha had confessed to the murders before his disappearance, though his lawyer claimed that he was tortured. A Thai court sentenced a former Marine to life imprisonment for the January killing of a former Cambodian opposition lawmaker in Bangkok, after initially handing down the death penalty. The politician, who was 74 years old, was shot hours after arriving from Cambodia with his wife and his brother. The former Marine, who was 41 years old, confessed to the crime, prompting the sentence reduction, and was also ordered to pay $55,162 in compensation to the victim's family. A second Thai defendant, accused of helping the Marine flee to Cambodia, was cleared due to insufficient evidence, Reuters has reported. 2 Cambodian nationals still remain at large in connection with the killing, and the politician's family urged authorities to continue the investigation and bring them to justice. Venezuela reported detecting 5 U.S. F-35 fighter jets flying near its Caribbean coast, which Defense Minister Vladimir Pedrino called a provocation, threatening national security. The jets were detected 46 miles from the coastline, which is well outside Venezuela's 12 nautical mile territorial waters, flying at 35,000 feet and 400 knots. The sighting was also reported by the crew of a nearby international airliner. The incident comes amid heightened tensions following U.S. warship deployments in the Caribbean and strikes on suspected drug trafficking boats, which Venezuela views as an attempt at regime change, CNN has reported. Pedrino warned the U.S. that Venezuela will not be intimidated, while the U.S. recently stationed several F-35s in Puerto Rico for training exercises. Thousands marched through Athens on Wednesday during a general strike that disrupted ferries, public transport, schools, hospitals, and other services across Greece. Protesters rallied against changes to labor laws, allowing overtime shifts of up to 13 hours and a maximum of 48 hours per week, arguing the new rules make workers vulnerable to exploitation. Many demonstrators also waved Palestinian flags and voiced opposition to the war in Gaza. Unions representing civil servants and private sector workers called for the strike, demanding a 37.5-hour work week and the reinstatement of collective bargaining agreements, the Associated Press has reported. The General Confederation of Workers of Greece condemned the extended shifts, saying exhaustion should not be considered development and human tolerance has its limits. Japan's ruling Liberal Democratic Party will select a new leader on Saturday to replace Prime Minister Ishiba, with the winner expected to become the country's next prime minister. 3 frontrunners, including a potential first female prime minister, the son of a former premier, and a veteran moderate. The new leader faces the immediate challenge of restoring public support, addressing rising prices, and stabilizing the party after recent election losses that cost the coalition a majority in both houses. They will also likely host a summit with U.S. President Donald Trump during his visit for the Asia-Pacific Economic Cooperation Summit later this month, the Associated Press has reported. Gaining cooperation from opposition parties will be crucial to avoid a cycle of short-lived leadership. Munich Airport reopened on Friday after drone sightings forced its closure Thursday night, grounding at least 17 flights and diverting 15 more, affecting nearly 3,000 passengers. Departing flights were suspended and arriving flights were redirected to nearby airports. Authorities could not immediately determine the drone's origin, type, or size, and the federal police said the sightings occurred after dark. The incident comes amid a series of recent drone disruptions at European airports, which have raised security concerns and prompted leaders a summit in Copenhagen, the BBC has reported. Munich authorities accommodated stranded passengers overnight with blankets, snacks, and camp beds, while the city continues to host the annual Oktoberfest festival, which had already faced a half-day closure earlier in the week due to a bomb scare. Today is October the 3rd, 2025, and on this day in history, in the year 1917, the United States Congress passed the War Revenue Act, which increased income taxes to help fund the U.S. war effort in World War I. In 1990, East Germany and West Germany officially reunited after more than 4 decades of separation. And in the year 1995, the jury found O.J. Simpson not guilty of the murders of Nicole Brown Simpson and Ronald Goldman. Also, October the 3rd is National Boyfriend Day. Okay, it's 19 past the hour. Let's do a quick stock market update. The NASDAQ is up 0.18%. Gold is up 0.66%. Oil is up 1.13%. Bitcoin is up 2.10%. The Dow Jones is up 0.70%. And the S&P 500 is up 0.40%. And now let's get right into the top national news stories for today. A python caused quite a surprise in an In-N-Out Burger drive-thru in Monrovia, California, when it was found by an employee on Monday, September the 29th. Pasadena Humane assisted in rescuing the snake, which weighed about 3.6 pounds and measured an estimated 3 to 4 feet long. The shelter described the python as beautiful and appearing well cared for, though its gender was initially unknown. Officials believe the snake likely escaped from its home, USA Today has reported. Pasadena Humane is now helping to locate the python's owner. An immigration judge in Maryland denied Kilmar Abrego Garcia's request to reopen his case and seek asylum in the United States, though he can appeal to the Board of Immigration Appeals. Abrego Garcia, a Salvadorian national, was mistakenly deported earlier this year and then later returned to face human smuggling charges, to which he pleaded not guilty. Despite showing credible evidence of gang threats in El Salvador, his asylum bid was rejected because he filed 7 years after first arriving in the U.S., CBS News has reported. He remains in immigration custody, and the Department of Homeland Security said his final removal order still stands. 8 unoccupied houses along North Carolina's Outer Banks have collapsed into the Atlantic Ocean over about 3 days due to pounding surf from hurricanes Humberto and Imelda. The first 5 homes fell on September the 30th, followed by a 6th later that evening, and a 7th on October the 1st, and then an 8th on October the 2nd. High tides and waves reaching 8 to 12 feet washed over the dunes, causing the structures to slide into the ocean. The National Park Service reported the collapses along Cape Hatteras National Seashore, USA Today has reported. Conditions are expected to improve, though the surf remains strong on October the 2nd. Prosecutors in the Tyler Robinson case say they have gathered voluminous evidence against the accused shooter. Utah County Chief Deputy Attorney Chad Grunander emphasized the large amount of discovery and the goal of efficiently sharing it with the defense. Legal experts note that the prosecution's focus on the volume of evidence signals a strong strategy, highlighting physical evidence, surveillance footage, and the weapon tied to Robinson's grandfather, bullet casings, social media messages, and prints on the roof. FBI Director Kash Patel confirmed a positive DNA match and text suggesting Robinson admitted to the shooting, Fox News has reported. The case is expected to unfold over the coming months as this evidence is reviewed and then presented. Police in Vallejo, California, found the body of 28-year-old Renia Lewis behind a hidden attic entrance, nearly a week after she went missing. Douglas Irwin Shaw, 41, has been arrested and admitted responsibility for her murder, though authorities have not disclosed a motive or whether the two knew each other. Lewis was last seen Friday evening, but was not reported missing until Sunday. Investigators connected her to a home and discovered her remains during a thorough search, Fox News has reported. Vallejo Police Chief Jason Ta called the crime, quote, heartbreaking, and praised officers for solving the case. Lewis's death is the 14th homicide in Vallejo this year. The Trump administration is enlisting National Guard and Army Reserve lawyers as temporary immigration judges after firing dozens of existing judges, aiming to address the growing backlog of cases. Training for the first group begins Monday, with roughly 100 lawyers expected to participate and 50 starting nearly 6-month assignments immediately after. The plan could expand to as many as 600 military-trained attorneys to decide which immigrants can stay in the United States. Advocates warn this move may strain both immigration courts and the military justice system, the Associated Press has reported. The administration has increasingly used the military in immigration enforcement, including border patrols, housing detainees, and deportation operations. A woman in Maine received 250 blank state election ballots in an Amazon package containing ordinary groceries, prompting an investigation by the Secretary of State. The package appeared to have been opened and then resealed, and the woman handed the ballots to a local town office. Secretary of State Sheena Bellows emphasized that safe and secure elections are a top priority and has tasked law enforcement with determining responsibility. The incident comes just days before Maine voters can begin voting by mail on a referendum regarding absentee voting restrictions, ABC News has reported. State Republicans have also called on the U.S. Attorney General and the FBI to investigate, calling the delivery a, quote, shocking breach that undermines public trust in elections. The mother of 25-year-old Jalen Lewis is suing Mississippi Capitol police officers, the department, and the State Department of Public Safety after he was fatally shot during a traffic stop on September the 25th of 2022. Officers Stephen Frederick and Michael Rainwalt were indicted for manslaughter and have pleaded not guilty. They opened fire after Lewis reversed his car into a police vehicle. The lawsuit alleges that Lewis did not threaten or brandish a weapon and seeks policy changes to prevent similar incidents, as well as compensation for emotional damages. The Mississippi Department of Public Safety declined to comment on the pending litigation, ABC News has reported. Reinwald and another officer are also facing a separate lawsuit and aggravated assault charges in connection with a different 2022 shooting. Sean Diddy Combs apologized in a letter to the judge ahead of his sentencing for 2 prostitution-related convictions, taking full responsibility for his actions and expressing remorse to his ex-girlfriend Cassie Ventura and another woman, Jane. Combs described his behavior as rooted in selfishness, excess, and drug use, and said his year in prison has changed him. He begged for a lenient sentence, to spend time with his family and continue improving as a father and a community leader. A jury found Combs guilty of transportation to engage in prostitution, but acquitted him of racketeering conspiracy and sex trafficking charges, ABC News has reported. Prosecutors are seeking an 11-year sentence, while his defense has requested 14 months, equivalent to the time he has already served. House Speaker Mike Johnson blamed the Democrats for the ongoing government shutdown, calling their actions a, quote, terribly selfish decision during an interview. He said Republicans proposed a, quote, clean continuing resolution to keep the government open, but the Senate Democrats repeatedly voted it down in favor of a dirty CR that Johnson claimed would repeal Trump-era health care reforms and add trillions in spending. Johnson argued that Democrats' proposal would extend benefits to ineligible Medicaid recipients and undermine reforms, saving $185 billion for taxpayers. He emphasized that the GOP measure was largely nonpartisan and offered in good faith to facilitate negotiation, Fox News has reported. Johnson expressed hope the shutdown would be brief, noting the impact on everyday Americans, while experts described the Republican CR as among the cleanest possible. Hey, real quick, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel so you can stay up to date on all of our news updates. And now here's the last block of news for the hour. Tesla reported 497,099 vehicle deliveries in quarter number 3, which is up 7% from the same period last year, though production fell to 447,450 vehicles. Shares dipped more than 3% following the report, ahead of the company's full financial results, which are scheduled for October the 22nd. The quarter was marked by weak sales in Europe due to consumer backlash against Elon Musk and stronger competition from EV makers like Volkswagen and BYD, partially offset by U.S. buyers rushing to use a federal tax credit that expired this week. Year-to-date deliveries totaled around 1.2 million, down about 6% from the first 3 quarters of 2024, CNBC has reported. Tesla produced 435,826 Model 3s and Model Y cars, while the rival Ford reported a 30% increase in EV sales during the same period. OpenAI completed a $6.6 billion secondary share sale, allowing current and former employees to sell stock at a record $500 billion valuation. The deal, which included investors such as Thrive Capital, SoftBank, Dragoneer, Abu Dhabi's MXG, and T. Rowe Price, involved about 2/3 of the $10.3 billion in authorized shares. The sale follows a previous $1.5 billion transaction with SoftBank in November and solidifies OpenAI as the world's most valuable privately held company, surpassing SpaceX. Participation in the offer was limited to employees who had held shares for more than 2 years, and the lower than authorized uptake is being interpreted internally as a sign of confidence in the company's long-term prospects, CNBC has reported. The move also serves to retain talent amid growing competition in the AI sector, allowing employees to cash out without pursuing an IPO. Unemployment in September remained largely unchanged at 4.34%, while both layoff and hiring rates slowed, according to new indicators from the Chicago Federal Reserve. The layoff rate held steady at 2.1%, while the hiring rate dipped to 45.2%, which is down 0.4 percentage points from August. Outplacement firm Challenger, Gray, and Christmas reported that layoff announcements fell 37% for the month, but total planned cuts for 2025 are already the highest since 2020, totaling 946,426. Hiring activity has plunged, with new hirings down 58% from a year ago and at the lowest level since 2009, CNBC has reported. With the government shutdown delaying labor market data releases, economists and policymakers will need to rely on alternative sources to assess labor market conditions. Chinese researchers at Peking University are developing and testing robot dogs to explore lunar lava tubes, which are considered ideal sites for future human bases due to stable temperatures and radiation protection. The robots were trialed in a cave in northeastern China, a site that was chosen for its geological similarity to the moon's underground terrain. One robot, inspired by anteaters, uses a flexible arm and rigid platform for multifunctional tasks, while another, modeled after a salamander, is a soft-wheeled design for navigating complex terrain. The robots are equipped with LiDAR and autonomous mapping capabilities, allowing them to scout areas impassable to humans and gather high-precision 3D data, the South China Morning Post has reported. These tests advance China's long-term plans for lunar exploration, including the Chang'e 7's mission and the International Lunar Research Station with Russia in the 2030s. Astronomers have observed a rogue planet, CHA 1107-7626, consuming gas and dust at an unprecedented rate of 6 billion tons per second, challenging the distinction between planets and stars. Rogue planets float freely through space without orbiting a star and are difficult to detect, though scientists estimate trillions may exist in the Milky Way. CHA 1107-7626, located about 620 light-years away, is 5 to 10 times the mass of Jupiter and only 1 to 2 million years old. The planet is rapidly growing by accreting material from its surrounding disk, a process that has recently accelerated 8-fold, CBS News has reported. Researchers say this extraordinary growth marks the strongest accretion ever recorded for a planetary mass object, and raises questions about the origins of rogue planets. Scientists have found that the molecular building blocks for life are readily available on Saturn's icy moon Enceladus. The 314-mile-wide moon has liquid water, hydrothermal activity, and the necessary chemical elements to potentially support extraterrestrial life. NASA's Cassini spacecraft previously detected tiny ice grains from cracks near Enceladus' south pole, containing carbon, hydrogen, nitrogen, oxygen, and phosphorus, though sulfur has not yet been observed. Past studies analyzed older ice grains from Saturn's E-ring, leaving uncertainty about whether the compounds originated on Enceladus or were altered by space weathering, Live Science has reported. New research published in Nature Astronomy has now confirmed organic molecules, possibly including nitrogen and oxygen, in fresh ice grains directly ejected from the moon. Salvage company 1715 Fleet Queen's Jewels LLC recovered more than 1,000 silver coins and 5 gold coins worth around $1 million from a 1715 Spanish shipwreck off Florida's Treasure Coast. The coins were retrieved by Captain Levin Shavers and the crew of the M.V. Just Right. The shipwreck was part of the 1715 treasure fleet, which was transporting wealth from the New World back to Spain when a hurricane sank 11 ships and killed about 1,000 people. Historians estimate that the fleet carried roughly $400 million in gold, silver, and jewels, making each recovered coin a valuable historical artifact, USA Today has reported. Queen Jules, based in Sebastian, Florida, holds exclusive salvaging rights and works with treasure hunters, museums, and archaeologists to preserve the site. Okay, everybody, that is our show for today. I hope you all have enjoyed it. I loved seeing all of you in the chat. I will see you all on Monday at 12 noon Eastern Standard Time for another episode of The News with BC. And until then, I hope you guys have a great weekend.